Welcome to the Treasury Update podcast, presented by Strategic Treasurer, your source for interesting Treasury news, analysis, and insights in your car, at the gym, or wherever you decide to tune in.
Welcome to the Treasury Update podcast. This is Jeffery, your host for today's podcast. I am joined again with Ernie Humphrey. Ernie has been on this podcast a number of times. I'll let him introduce himself. He has a Treasury webinars. He also does a number of other activities in the Treasury space. Ernie, welcome to the Treasury Update podcast again.
Thanks, Craig. Always a pleasure and honored to be a guest today. As Craig mentioned, I'm the CEO of Treasury Webinars. My goal is to impact the career success of Treasury professionals, but also those across the Office of the CFO. Also a heavy evangelist for a new endeavor called Generation Finance, which is a community for finance accounting and Treasury professionals as well, to help them focus on the soft skills in their career and also have opportunities to mentor and be mentored and give back to their professions.
Thanks, Ernie. And we are in the fall in the United States, and there are a series of conferences coming up this fall and in the spring, and people are getting back together again physically. And so today's topic, maximizing your ROI of a conference, the return on investment of a conference, is a big deal. People spend a lot of time to go to those things. It's about seeing people, but it's also about getting value. We want to have a discussion about what do you do before a conference, at a conference, and after a conference. Maybe we could start at maybe you can begin in the pre-side. What should you be doing to prepare? I guess it depends on your role. What do you advise people? You've been to dozens of conferences, so I'd love to hear your thoughts.
I can go at it from a couple different angles. So one is from the attendee perspective, the practitioner perspective, and then maybe on the exhibitor side of things. So from attendee perspective, first of all, I believe the expectations are probably higher from your boss to get your approval to go to the conference. So let's make sure that you understand what your boss is expecting you to get back for the conference. And just for example, some of the conferences now have videos and tips, right? Things you should do to prepare for a conference. You should obviously get your agenda set, right? So you want to make sure whatever area you're trying to explore, what are your objectives for going to the conference, right? And it's not just getting recertification credits. Let's go past that, right? I want to learn about, API automation. I want to learn about Treasury technology. I want to learn about EBAM, right? Let's focus in on those sessions. So let's make time to get that knowledge, but also let's make time to network, because you need to build your brand with your peers. So let's take a look at the events that are going on. Let's take a look at our partner events going on, but then let's also make sure that we take time to go to the exhibit hall as well. So let's take a look at those vendor lists, and let's plan that out, and let's make some time to go around to those vendors. And if you have specific needs, please make an appointment with people are happy to make an appointment with you. That's going to be your value add there. It's busy in the exhibit hall. So I guess all that being said, have your objectives for the conference, right? Line out what you want to do and then measure yourself to that. So one of my suggestions is, hey, I want to make 20 new LinkedIn connections, right? Or I want to meet this many people. Those are things that you need to put down on paper. I went to the session, boom, what happened at the session? So I would say, be prepared. I think that's the biggest thing before you go.
Some great ideas there, Ernie. One thing that, as you were talking about that, I also thought about, if you go to sessions, you learn certain things. Does it just stay in your head? And, the medical profession does something called in-service. When someone goes to do training, they've got to come back and provide, if they go for a day of training, they've got to come back and do an hour course summarizing the key things they learned to others. I'm sure you think that's a good idea, but I'm just wondering, how does somebody make that happen, whether you're the one going or you're the boss signing off on the approval for the spend?
Now, just given the technology, when you go to a session, right, you might have your iPad, just so you can get some notes in that electronic format. The other thing to do is to make sure that you get a copy of the slides, right, from the presentation. And so that will easily refresh your memory. It just depends on how quickly you have to do it after the conference is over. But I would definitely take some time to make a few notes that you have electronically to, if nothing else, jog your memory. Or you can just say, review slide 20, like 23, like, slide 24. Just don't wait till you get home, right? And then try and remember all the good things. So I think you have to do it as you go along. So one of the things I suggest is you're going to day one. These are my goals after day one. See if you met your goals. Do I have to revise my strategy at all, right? And part of that day one should be, did I spend enough time getting in my mind, recapping things and getting down the things that I wanted to remember. And maybe I want to reach out to the speaker. Maybe I want to reach out to the company. So those are things I would say. I know it's hard. If you're going to go to a session, you got to be attentive, right? You can't be distracted. You have to really be present. So don't overload yourself. If you can't go to 8 sessions a day and be there and be present, get impacted, you're going to lose the ROI. So it depends. To me, it's your personality and what you need to do. But I'd caution people from overloading themselves with too many sessions, with too many different topics.
That's good advice. But I guess the other side is, if you're going to sessions, you also go to events, which might be more of a relaxing or entertaining venue. But what about the exhibit hall? Let's say you have certain things you want to find out. You got to go visit these 2 bankers because you got an upcoming credit renewal, and then you're looking at certain types of tech. What should be your strategy, your plan on the exhibit hall? Get in and get out, or visit more broadly? How would you advise people on that?
The good news is now you can get a map of the exhibit hall, right? You can spend 20 minutes in that place trying to find who you want to find. So you should target people that you want to see. So most of the exhibit hall, they have classifications by the services that they offer. So I would go and identify the people I might want to talk to and then see where they're at in the exhibit hall floor. So make sure that you know where you're going, right? Have a purpose, but also set aside some time. Okay, this hour is exhibit hall time. And if you get overloaded on session, a good time to go in the exhibit hall is during a group of sessions because nobody else is in there. So if you go only during the breaks, it's hard to even get up to the booth, or people are just going to be trying to badge scan you. So I would say have a strategy. But then, like you said, if you want to meet with your bankers, set that meeting up before the conference. Don't expect that you'll be able to go up there and try and have a conversation. Or maybe you're like, hey, my company, needs money. I want to talk to you, right? That's not going to work at the conference, probably. I mean, they'll probably love it, but you need to be prepared for the type of conversation that you want to have.
That's great. So what should exhibitors do? Companies so we exhibit, we have at the AFP, we have a 20 by 40 booth. So it's like 8 squares worth. It's huge. We have a lot of people there. What do you advise exhibitors to do at these things ahead of time or during the event?
Ahead of time, I encourage folks to really work the list that they have and don't just try and send an invite to everybody to come to everything, right? Segment that list, give them more than one opportunity to visit your booth or go to your event, give them options of things that are entertaining, and then encourage your team to make connections before the event. If you want people to come by your booth, make LinkedIn connections with them if you don't have it, right? Reach out to them, build that relationship before, maybe even send them a resource before. Hey, this is a blog, this is a webinar, come by our booth, right? So I call that pre-conference momentum. Now, the in-person part is companies need to invest in training their people to be in an exhibit booth because most people don't want to be there. They don't look engaged. They don't have a purpose. They want a badge scan. So anyone that's not on their game, attentive, people need to be writing down something from every conversation. Every conversation you have should have an outreach that can be personalized afterwards. You get a long line at your booth. So what? Don't just start scanning everybody's badge. Teach your people how to read the badge banners, right? Oh, you were speaking on a session. So it seems like common sense, but teach people how to read. Don't have people go out and start accosting people, from the exhibit hall floor. We have all seen that before. So a lot of it, you have to get people that have energy. Not everyone's Ernie, but you need to have people there that have passion and energy. And if someone looks tired, take them up, just say, oh, you need a break, right? Because the last thing you want, for me as a practitioner, when I went by a booth and someone's on their iPad or something, I wasn't going back. Also, the exhibitors should attend all the meals at the conference and sit at a table where they don't know anybody, right? That's 8 people a meal. If they can, send them to sessions relevant to you before the session and after the session, because that's where you make those connections, and just be ready to engage at all times. Don't walk around with your head down, walk around with your head up. Smile at somebody, do something, engage people. You have to be on all the time. You have to be authentic and do something different in your exhibit booth and have multiple things going on. And then afterwards, right, you need to have that personalized follow-up. And again, if you haven't done it, you should build LinkedIn connections on the spot. Am I connected with you on LinkedIn? No. Well, let's do that right now. That'll spurn. We're business cards. No. LinkedIn right now. So those are a few things.
At the conference this year, the AFP, we have to have events that are outside of the formal times of education at the conference, which makes sense, right? So you're not siphoning off people. So we have some events pre-conference going on, and then during the conference, we have some breakfast sessions before the conference starts. We have a lunch session on Monday and Tuesday, and then we have evening events, which are more entertainment or party related. We have 8 events, Ernie. We have never had 8 events. We have a separate room above the floor. Maybe it's too early to ask you, but is that too many events to have? How can we make sure we have the most success across all these events, from interviews that are the fintech hot seats to lunch where it's sharing and asking information, to some targeted, really going into some depth on some of our programs that we have?
First blush, the answer is, you have too many events. The answer is yes. Actually, I hope you don't. If you can get ROI from 8 events, right, that's awesome. But I think it's about obviously honing in on what is success for each event, right? How many people do I need to get there? What are the titles? What is it that I'm trying to accomplish at each event? What's the target? Inviting the same group of people to all 8 events, I know you know better, but I'm just talking to other people that, to me, you have to have 8 distinct like personas or things that you're trying to accomplish. But then you don't want people to get event fatigue, right? We love Craig to death, but do I really want to go to 8 events by Strategic Treasury? I can probably do 6, but not 8, maybe 6, so that's kind of another thing. But measuring success is that, and then probably giving one person ownership, a different person for each event, and that accountability, if that's possible. And so I think that would be something that would be interesting, because the person would, feel ownership of that. And so that's an idea that I would have.
That's good. The most we've done before is 5. And so we stepped it up a little bit more, and we'll see if we overextended or not. Real good information. We have partners for a number of the events, so it's I'm hoping that goes well. But we're several weeks out, and I'm starting to feel the pressure too. So I'll report back to you to see if how much we overextended ourselves on that.
One of the other things which but some people don't think about, you have to look at what other events are going on at night, right? In the conference. We all know at the conference coming up in October, you don't want to do a same event as one of the exhibitors does, because everybody goes to that event. It just happens every year. So you also have to kind of look at what you're bumping up against that happens like every year, and try and, I don't know what you do. To me, you avoid that night. So that's something people need to think about too.
Maybe that's late Tuesday night. Yeah. Excellent. So anything post event that as an attender, they got to do their in-service, or they got to present some information report back so they can go other years, make sure that the organization is realizing all the benefit they can from their investment of time and money. Anything else for them or for the exhibitors? Or
I think with the attendees, what would happen to me is I'd be all excited about all this stuff I wanted to do, and then I'd lose my momentum once the plane landed, right? So you have to make sure that you set time aside to revisit what you wanted to do. So write down, like after the conference, I want to do this, and hold yourself accountable for it. Because as soon as you get back into the throw of work and your inbox is flooded, you lose that momentum. You actually have a renewed passion for learning and your professional development. So find a way to keep those irons hot, I would say, from the exhibitor perspective, more so for banks and treasury service providers that are going directly to the practitioners. Don't just say, you were at AFP, let's do a demo. I can't stand that. So I think people need to invest in that relationship, earn the demo, or mention a conversation. So something like, hey, I enjoyed our conversation. We have a webinar recording on this. We've got a white paper on this. Is there anything else you would like to know? I enjoyed our conversation. Pull something. Hey, you said you're interested in learning more about Treasury technology. Hey, did you see this? So make that warm. And again, everyone, I'm too much LinkedIn, but everyone that you have in your little list that comes back, you should be, the person that spoke with them should be a direct LinkedIn connection with them. So build that and then have something to send them to. The ideal thing is, oh, we have a webinar coming up on. Now here is a crazy idea. How about you say, oh, I know this webinar. I actually do this. So I meet people and I'm like, hey, you should go to Strategic Treasury. They have this great survey results. And you do, but it's not mine. So they're like, wow, that's pretty cool. He's not selling me his stuff. He's trying to build a relationship with me. So people that are responsible for follow-up, make sure they have an exact plan of what they want to do and why, and what's the desired action.
Well, you're very kind and generous in doing that. So I really appreciate that, Ernie. Thanks for your comments about maximizing your ROI of a conference. I don't think many of us think about that as much as we should. It's a significant investment. You've given us a lot of great ideas. Thanks again.
My pleasure, as always.
You've reached the end of another episode of the Treasury Update podcast. Be sure to follow Strategic Treasurer on LinkedIn. Just search for Strategic Treasurer. This podcast is provided for informational purposes only, and statements made by Strategic Treasurer LLC on this podcast are not intended as legal, business, consulting, or tax advice. For more information, visit and bookmark strategictreasurer.com.